Welcome back to the Modus Stories. Today we are joined by vegan CrossFit athlete and fitness influencer Rebecca Clements. You can follow Rebecca's journey on Instagram at simply_whimsical. So to start, Rebecca, if you can just tell us a little bit about your journey into health and fitness and how you got to where you are now.
I have always been a dancer. So I grew up dancing. I did classical like jazz, lyrical, ballet, hip hop, tap, tumbling. So always did that, played soccer growing up, all through high school, ran track. So I've always been busy. Dance was my primary sport, but I've always loved movement. I think dance is actually why I love CrossFit and everything I do now, because I got to learn how to move and like sort of like the love and the joy and the exciting expression that comes with movement. So fitness has always been a part of my life, and it's not going away anytime soon.
Now, which of the dance styles was your favorite?
Lyrical. Lyrical is kind of a mix between like ballet and jazz. So it's still some of the classical, like very like structural components, but also more fun, more free, a little bit less rules, which I like.
Gotcha. And what brought you into CrossFit after dance?
So I taught dance for about 10 years. I even taught it through college for a long time. And then when I was in college, my little sister invited me to go to a CrossFit competition. I was like, what's CrossFit? So I showed up and I saw my little sister, who I hadn't seen in a little while, just beasting out these crazy, like shoulder to overhead, just all this stuff. And I'm like, my little sister can kick my ass. Like, I'm too competitive. I wasn't okay with that. So I went and signed up for a gym and I got better. And once I started doing CrossFit, just in love with it. Just the different movements, more stuff I had to learn. Nothing was ever discouraging. It was like, here's something else I get to try to master. So my sister's the reason. And since then, she's stopped CrossFit, but she does a lot of other different stuff. She's the reason.
And what made you want to go competitive and compete? I know I've seen a couple of your Instagram videos where you've traveled all over the place. So what brought that on?
I love the idea of having to master something. And CrossFit's interesting because it's high intensity functional movement across broad time and domain. Like, it's weird. It's different. It's harder to master than just one component. So you want to be the best free throw shooter in the world. Okay, you have this one thing you have to do, but with CrossFit, you have to master energy system training. You have to measure how do you hold your composure when you're doing high-level skill gymnastics after you just ran a mile as fast as you can. It's those kind of stuff that it's like, it engages the mind so much as well as the body that I knew I wasn't okay just doing it recreationally. That became a little bit, I drank the CrossFit Kool-Aid, like they like to say. I wanted to do it. I wanted to keep doing it. And I have laid out my life. So now that's what I can do. So training is my focus and I want to win.
What motivates you and pushes you every day?
A few things. I think one of the biggest thing for me is to show people that you can not only be an athlete when you're vegan, but you can be a very good athlete and you can recover fast and you don't need animal to get that way. And I think that's one of my favorite things. I tell people what I do, or I walk into a room and they see me, they're like, oh, you have muscle, what do you do? What's your diet like? It's so satisfying to say, I'm vegan. I don't eat animals. And that right there, I want people to say, well, yeah, I know a vegan athlete that's crushing everyone. Here, go look her up. I think that's probably, if I had to choose one thing, that's very motivating to me.
And what does a typical day in the life look like for Rebecca?
Like a pattern that just repeats all the time. It's like eat, sleep, work, repeat. I wake up, I do my morning routine. I have like apple cider vinegar and I have a journal, kind of get you in a good space for the day. Do a little bit of that kind of stuff. Then I work for a while. So I work before my first session. I have my first session is usually just strength. So like Olympic lifting, sometimes like skill work or auxiliary work, but mainly lifting is my first session. I come home, I eat, I will work more. I go do a recovery something, whether that's go to the chiropractor, go to cryotherapy, or sit at home and use my Theragun and get my muscles feeling better. Then I will go to my second session, which is typically conditioning, mixed work, more like CrossFit stuff, or like I'll do row intervals or bike intervals, something like that. And then after that, maybe work a little bit more if I didn't finish earlier. And then the rest of the day is like play, fun, have a life, hang out with the pups.
So roughly how many hours are you spending working out or exercising a day?
Typically 2 sessions a day, anywhere from 90 to 2 hours of work. So maybe 3 to 4 hours a day. Some days, like a recovery day, I might do 3 sessions that are a little shorter of just aerobic stuff. Sundays are usually completely off, with the exception of like an easy hike. Like yesterday, we went and hiked a cool area around here and saw a beautiful Arizona sunset. So it's totally worth it. But usually twice a day, about 90 to 2 hours.
What would you say is one of your greatest achievements in fitness?
I love this question because my answer is actually kind of not basic, but it's basic, is learning to squat. So I had 5 knee surgeries within 2 years. So both knees, total reconstruction, no injury. I just had loose ligaments, and dance sort of exploited that more. So bone on bone, my knees are doing this. They reorganized all the ligaments, so now they track better, but I still had knee pain. I grew up with knee pain my whole life, to the point of having like night terrors where I would wake up screaming just because I was in so much pain when I was sleeping.
Oh.
And surgeries helped, but I knew I shouldn't have to be in pain all the time. When I went to that first CrossFit gym after watching my sister's competition, funny enough, I showed up the first day and I told the coach, all these surgeons and doctors told me don't squat below parallel. He looked me dead in the eyes and he said, Rebecca, you're going to learn to squat. And I did. And I'm so grateful for him and for that, because the stronger my legs get, the more I squat the right way, the more I use the right muscles, I don't have pain anymore. So I love that, like squatting, and I'm still not perfect at it. I'm always working on it, but learning to actually squat after growing up for years, listening to the doctors telling me, don't ever do that. And now not only do I do it, but I help others who were told, don't do that, and now they're doing it too.
What would you say is one of your greatest personal achievements outside of fitness?
I've helped a lot of people go totally plant-based. So, if I had to write a list right now, I could probably name at least 30 that I could list, but there might be more, but that. So I know it's that many less animals being eaten. It's that many more people who are feeling better, who are recovering better. So that, I think that's huge. It's getting back. For myself, it is that I have spent the years setting myself up for success. So I have habits that they're good. I have like a routine that's almost bulletproof. I do the things, the hard things, the little annoying things that most people don't want to do, but I do those things, and I've been building and building, and now I think I'm at the point in life, I have this really good platform that anything else I do or that I've got going on right now, it's just going to continue to skyrocket, because I've spent all of the time building the bottom base that I need to do.
What would you say are your current fitness goals right now for yourself?
I just started working with a new Olympic lifting coach to fine tune some of my lifts. So I think I want to do, one of my plans is an Olympic lifting competition, which I've never done. I've only lifted for a while, but I haven't formally competed. So that, grow my lungs. So keep doing more conditioning, you'll hear every CrossFitter say, oh, I need to build my lungs. We all think that. We do. We all got to we just want to do more of that. And then my third goal right now is actually to do the CrossFit Open this year. So funny enough, I've been doing CrossFit for a couple of years, but I have never done the Open. I actually donated my eggs to 2 different couples twice in IVF, in vitro fertilization. So because of that, I couldn't work out during those times. So I haven't even done an Open yet. And that's, if no one knows CrossFit, you have to qualify in the Open. Before it was you made it to regionals, and then from there you go to the games. They eliminated regionals for this 2018-19 season. So now there's going to be different competitions to compete at. There will still be the Open, but it means a little bit less. It's different than the years prior, but to do that.
Like, what's your training going to be like leading up to that?
As it gets closer, the intensity goes up. So right now, I'm not doing a ton of intensity. I have lifting in the morning, and then the evenings are more cyclical. Like I'll do like row repeats or like gymnastics work, very methodical, very smart, very paced. As it gets closer to the open season, which is the beginning of this next year. That's when leading up to that is more reps, just faster, harder. I don't go hard all the time. If you want to do really well in CrossFit, you can't, it's not sustainable if you're giving your everything all the time. So right now I'm in a more relaxed phase, and then I'll ramp it up a little bit leading up to that.
As a coach, what made you want to get into coaching? What's your favorite part of it?
I did dance, but I also taught dance over 10 years. So I'm used to, I'm comfortable in, and I drive energy from being in a room with a bunch of other people and teaching them. And I think teaching kids for as long as I did has helped me transition into coaching adults, because if you can take a very complex or difficult movement and not dumb it down, but if you can dumb it down, make it easy to understand in a simple cue for a 4-year-old, for an 8-year-old, for a 12-year-old, for a 16, if you can understand how to do that. If I have a 35-year-old male come to me with, 50 pounds overweight, like, I can help because I know the cues. I know how to talk to people. I know how to take a complex idea and take all the information and knowledge I know and make it so the clients don't have to think about that. They can just do. So working with kids, I never want to stop. I loved coaching. I loved how much of an impact you can make on someone by having them think differently, think about how they're working out differently, and think about what they're putting into their mouth. You can just absolutely change lives.
Now, transitioning into that little last part that you said there, what are some of your tips for beginners that are just looking into it, trying to improve their health somehow? What are your recommendations?
So everything I do, especially with nutrition, is super habit focused. So you could give me your diet and I could tell you everything that I want you to fix or change and give it back to you. But if I do that, you're going to look at that paper and be like, oh my God, no, this is so much. I can't do this. So focus on the couple priority things, lock them in, crush them. And then once you have it done and it's in your pocket and that resource is reflexive. An example, you like pop or soda. The waiter walks up to you, what do you want to drink? And you've worked on not having pop or soda for a month, that you no longer have to think, ooh, should I get the water or should I get the soda? It's no, I don't want soda. Hey, yes, can I please have some water? Maybe a little lemon, whatever it is. But it's making those choices reflexive so you don't have to think as much. Our willpower is like muscle. You're going to use it and it gets tired, it gets fatigued. So if you've had to make, I think the average, I read a study once, it was like you have to make 250 some nutrition choices a day. That's, you walk into the store choosing what's on the shelf, or you open your fridge and I'm looking over there, my fridge is over there. Like, what am I going to have for this meal? What condiments should I put on? All those decisions wear on you. Your willpower gets fatigued. So if we eliminate the hard stuff, and it just becomes so easy to say, I know for breakfast, I like to have these 3 options. And so my default is, if I don't know what to do, or I'm traveling, or I'm in a stressful situation, I have 3 good options to default to. So biggest tip is to take the things that you need to work on and work on them one at a time until you've got them in your tool belt and you're good to go.
What would you say is one of the biggest struggles a beginner has, like trying to make this transition into a healthier lifestyle?
Doing too much, too fast. And I will even get clients. Here's a really good story. I had a client who, she came to me and she wasn't sleeping. She slept maybe an average of 4 hours a night. And I told her, it's not safe for me to program you workouts or to massively overhaul your nutrition until you sleep enough. That is our base. That is our absolute support, number 1. So she was paying me, but I told her, you are not getting any workouts for an entire 7 days. So the first week of working with me, I didn't give her any workouts. At the end of that week, she slept an average of 7 hours per night, which she hadn't done in years. She lost 13 pounds in a week. Wow. And felt better than she ever has. So the biggest mistake people make is taking on too much, taking it on too fast, or thinking that they are ready for more and the sexy fun, like the really cool stuff, when they need to keep nailing the basics. So if you can master the basics, that's the foundation. That's, I said one of my biggest accomplishments is I've mastered the basics. So I have a base. If you get your base, all the other stuff will build. That's not hard.
Now, what would you say is one of the biggest myths in the fitness industry that you find a lot of your clients or just people that you're talking to 100% believe because it's been pushed on the internet, but it's just not the case?
Definitely that you need animal to succeed or build muscle. And I'm sure you know the biggest question is always, where do you get your protein? It's how do you do it? What do you mean you don't eat animals? Like, what about eggs? What about fish? And it's like, you don't need all that to build muscle. You know, the bodybuilding diet that everyone looked towards is broccoli, rice, and chicken. And I just look at that as that's a vegetable, great. It's a carb, great. And it's a protein source. We can get those and higher quality, different sources that don't come from animal.
What made you choose to go vegan versus vegetarian, like the ethical reasons, the nutrition, all kind of the aspects?
Yeah, so when I was young, I was vegetarian first. I even remember there was a day where we had like a pepperoni pizza and I picked off the pepperoni and my mom said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I think this is like an animal. Like it clicked and I was like, this is flesh. Like what? I don't want to eat that. So I was actually vegetarian for I think 6 years before I transitioned to fully vegan. I think being a vegetarian, I was happy not having the meat, but I just didn't know enough about like the dairy and the egg industry to fully understand the impact those had on the animals and the world and my own health. So slowly transitioned. I made it my goal I had 1 year where every morning with breakfast, and I remember this, I was in college and I had oatmeal for breakfast every morning. I was eating my oatmeal and my goal was to always look up at least one research article about being vegan or plant-based. So sometimes it would be, regular articles from the internet, but most of the time I'd go to Google Scholar and actually look through literature so I understood. Because if you don't connect or understand why you're doing it, it won't be sustainable. So then went from vegetarian to vegan, and now it's been over 7 years. So totally, at least meat-free for about 13 years now, I think.
In your research and everything that you were reading, what are a couple of the top points that you want to pass on to people listening to this, just to educate them on the vegan diet?
Look at where the research is coming from and who's paying for it. Because there are a lot of articles you can find that are totally against veganism, but oftentimes it's funded by the dairy industry, or there's a lot of politics behind closed doors that not everyone knows about. So if you are trying to be more plant-based, is to make sure you're getting your information from credible sources. Otherwise, take it like one meal at a time. Same thing as just general practices is master something. So I always use the example of breakfast because you win the morning, you win the day, right? So if you can nail a plant-based breakfast and you feel really good with that, fantastic. Now let's start working on lunch. Great, you feel really good with that. Dinner is usually the hard one because people go out, people have, their spouses cook and maybe they're not on the same page. It's making sure that you nail one at a time until you feel really good and then tackle something else. And the social support. Thinking about a spouse I do a lot of nutrition coaching, and oftentimes the hardest thing for everyone is not having social support. So even if my dad's a butcher. He was a butcher growing up, and both of his daughters are vegan. So it's important, my sister's vegan, my boyfriend's vegan, my sister, the people I hang out with and I spend a lot of my time with understand my lifestyle because they're doing the same thing. So it's start taking little steps. And then my next piece of advice is definitely to get a social circle. Even if you don't have people in person, there's so many online communities, so many people you can reach out to, talk to, get support. But surround yourself with those kind of same people on the same mission as you, and it's going to be a piece of vegan cake.
Now, how has your physical performance changed since cutting out eggs and dairy? Like, have you noticed more energy overall, and especially working with your clients and switching them over to plant-based? How is their energy and performance?
It definitely improved. The biggest thing is recovery time. So funny enough, my boyfriend, when I met him, was also competing at a higher level in CrossFit, very heavy animal product diet. One of the biggest things we noticed when he took out like dairy and eggs is his recovery time, not only for his muscles, but our hands. So in CrossFit, it's not uncommon. You're doing a lot of reps on the bars. In gymnasts, you get big rips where your calluses will come off. He would take before, a week and a half, 2 weeks to like fully heal. And I always joked when he met me, he joked, he's like, you heal at super speed. I would already have a new skin by 2 or 3 days and without putting stuff on, just totally my body healed, and it healed fast. So his same thing, his hands and his rips started to heal so much faster. So that it's cool because it's like physical proof. You could look down and think, wow, my body is responding well to the food I'm eating because I'm literally repairing myself faster than I ever have.
In terms of meals that you eat day to day, what do those kind of look like? How's your protein intake?
My macros, and I don't necessarily recommend this for everyone, this is very like individualized, but I eat 28 to 3,000 calories a day. And I weigh, I'm 5'6", I weigh anywhere 145, maybe 150 pounds at the most. About 131 to 135 pounds of lean muscle mass. So realistically, I only need about 135 grams of protein a day. I'm still in the surplus. I usually get around maybe 160, sometimes more or less, depending on the day or what I'm doing that day. Carbs, I'm not afraid of carbs. Carbs are a great thing, especially for what I'm doing. Those are usually at least above maybe 350 grams of carbs, maybe up to 420 on a higher day. And then fat is usually between 60 to 100. It's kind of a wide range, but that is something that changes a little bit. Meal-wise, I eat a lot and I eat frequently. And that's because I do different sessions. I structure my meals a little different, but eating a lot. And so like I just ate right before this call. I had post-workout potatoes like scrambled up on a pan with broccoli and sweet potatoes, because if you ever do research on potatoes, sweet potatoes are superior. Look at the micronutrients, everything. I'm a big fan of sweet potatoes. And then tempeh. So like a half a block of tempeh, which I think is already about 25 grams of protein or so. Breakfast is usually, I'll use like vegan patties sometimes. So it's a vegan patty, greens, usually 1 to 2 cups of spinach, about 3 ounces of cucumber, some salsa, some nutritional yeast. I eat a lot of tacos because what we'll do is we'll buy really clean tortillas, and then whatever you have in the fridge, whether it's beans or we have lentils, I feel like on tap all the time. We've always got some sort of lentils, different foods like that. And you can just throw them in a taco shell and it's good. So I don't really cook elaborately or anything just because I eat frequently and a lot of food that it's not realistic for me to make a gourmet great meal every time. But I stick to a very athlete, simple, very basic food.
What would you say is your favorite meal to make? It doesn't have to be an everyday thing, but what's your favorite meal?
See, my boyfriend and I are like cheat, but it's not even a cheat because it's actually incredibly healthy. There's a store by us that sells these little pizza crusts that are like gluten-free, oil-free, like sugar-free, totally like they're made from potatoes, really, really healthy, like little crusts. And then we'll put on like just like a ton of veggies or different stuff, but pizza. That's like my favorite go-to. And what's cool is we'll take those same crusts and you put a little bit of coconut oil, a little bit of nutritional yeast, and then sprinkle some garlic. And it's like cheesy garlic bread, but you can eat the whole thing and it's like 250 calories and it's really clean, only 3 ingredients. So pizza is the little secret one.
What sort of supplements were you taking to help you with performance and day-to-day?
Omega-3s, just to make sure joint health is good when you're doing as much activity as I do. Iron, B12, some of like the basic athlete, human, vegan ones. I actually wasn't necessarily taking anything. I wasn't taking anything for like focus or for sleep aid besides like a zinc, magnesium, like very, very basic stuff. So Modus is so cool because you have all put together products where I don't have to think. So really, I didn't necessarily take anything out because I was taking very basic amount of stuff anyway. Instead, I just got to put them in. So I love Modus, and I love that I don't have to think about them. One of the most simple, basic things I love doing with the protein is mixing like a scoop with a little bit of like a hemp milk or almond milk or cashew, whatever plant milk you want, and then a little bit of peanut butter, and you just with a fork blend it up, and it's really thick. So we call it vludge, like vegan sludge. So that is like a freaking dessert. It's like chocolate pudding. Love that. Putting it in coffee. I'll sometimes do before my second session, which I really like, a scoop with coffee, like a little bit of hemp milk and then ice. And it tastes like a mocha frappuccino, but it's clean and it's healthy and it sets you up for success. That's definitely secret sauce.
And just to close it out, for someone that is looking to make the switch towards a plant-based or a vegan diet, what are your final recommendations for them when considering it?
Easy swap, switch to Modus protein. And I know that's a shameless plug, but honestly, one of the easiest things you can do is have a scoop of protein in your oatmeal in the morning, or have a scoop of protein post-workout. Super easy to add that in. Highly recommend that. It's easy, and we can wrap our heads around it and it makes sense. Then the next thing would be to start eliminating things that you know aren't serving you. Like, that cheese on that pizza is not gonna, that dairy, it's from a cow, it's not, you're not getting any benefits. There could be harm, we can dive into all that, but that's not beneficial. So try to take out the things that aren't serving you and keep putting more things in that do serve you.
And that is an absolutely fantastic takeaway for people that listened. If you've made it this far, thanks so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Rebecca directly on Instagram. Once again, it is at simply_whimsical. And if you have any questions regarding Modus, as always, feel free to reach out at help@modusnutrition.com. Thanks so much for listening.